of job openings and applicants are nearly matched at about 100 jobs for every 103 applicants. So even if you have put hiring on hold, now can be a great opportunity as you have less competition. Next, I'd like to give you 2 pieces of advice that will help you hire effectively. 1, salary matters. 2, but even when you offer a competitive salary, you must consider your benefits, employer branding, and employee experience to attract and retain great talent. First, 82% of respondents said that salary is the key consideration when accepting a job offer. Across Asia Pacific, we see that this rate varies from about 70 to 90%. This shows that salary is the major factor for any job seeker, regardless of location. Job seekers have motivation beyond salary, but Japan and Tokyo especially is expensive and the cost of living is rising. The well-being of your workers and their family is highly dependent on the adequate salary. Well, moving on from salary, let's look at other ways that companies are attracting employees. Japanese employers are offering dynamic company culture, remote, flexible work arrangements, and professional development opportunities. Let me comment about culture and remote work. First, culture. We see that many employers are emphasizing their culture, with the key aspects of corporate culture being relationships, corporate values, how employees are evaluated, work style, and working atmosphere. With review websites like Glassdoor, this information is now public, and our survey found 47% of job seekers do extensive research when changing jobs. Ensuring that your corporate culture is rated positively online will ensure that you attract the best talent. Well, finally, let's talk about remote work. A generous remote work policy and effective remote arrangements can also be a great strategy to make your firm a more attractive employer. Workers with long commutes or parents with children, especially working mothers, proactively seek companies that offer flexibility. Offering remote work will likely make you a more attractive employer and allow you to hire more women and working mothers for better corporate diversity. Moving on to the next slide. Next, let's talk about hiring tips. 83% of job seekers say having a frustration interview process would affect their decision to accept an offer. The interview process is an employer's first impression, and for job seekers, often that impression is negative. We see these trends all across APAC. Job seekers are not happy with the interview process. They feel it is too long, there's lack of transparency in the interview process, and that the information provided by recruiters does not really match the message from employers. Shortening your interview processes, being transparent about salaries, and ensuring interviewers and recruiters convey consistent information will increase your chances of a hire. Looking at this data from a generational perspective, Japan was fairly uniform, but overwhelmingly, Japanese job seekers are looking for companies with healthy work cultures. Japan, unfortunately, tends to have a reputation for unhealthy work environments. To cite a few examples, according to a survey in 2016, 1 out of 4 of Japanese companies require employees to work more than 80 hours of overtime a month, and those extra hours are often unpaid. Japanese workers, on average, do not use 10 of their paid leaves, and 63% of Japanese respondents even felt guilty for taking paid leave. Yet long working hours do not necessarily mean high productivity, and unfortunately, Japan has the lowest productivity among G7 nations. Creating a healthy, positive work environment and getting that message out to the market will help you stand out from the crowd and recruit effectively. Moving on to the next slide, Let's turn to retention and some specific reasons why employees leave and how you can avoid them. As you can see, salary again is important, ranking the second highest. Lack of growth opportunities and underutilizing skills were ranked number 1 and 3. Employees today are savvy and know that if they aren't learning new skills or their careers stall, so will their market value. Ensuring every employee has reachable next step to the organization and it is continuously learning new skills will support retention. Looking at reason number 4, with the pandemic, there is renewed emphasis on workplace empathy. In other words, do workers feel valued and appreciated? As you can see from the graph on the right, although employers felt empathy had increased substantially, workers weren't necessarily convinced. For example, we've received some comments that employers were told that it is obligated to go to the office during the state of emergency and that they felt insecure for health perspective. Another example is that candidates decided not to apply to the position as all the interview processes needed to be done face-to-face and did not have any flexibility to do it online. This lack of empathy often makes employees question their future with their employer. So it is important to make sure your empathy efforts are resonating with your employees. For the last slide, we've talked about proactive strategies to ensure attract talent and defensive strategies to keep talent. Finally, let's close by talking about employee experience. First, to define employee experience, the journey an employee takes with your organization. It includes every interaction that happens along the employee life cycle, plus experiences that involve an employee's role, workspace, manager, and well-being. 93% of our respondents said their organization have room for improvement with employee experience. Employee experience is every experience of working at your organization. Ensuring that all of these interactions are positive, some of which are seemingly small and insignificant, will make workers happier and improve their employee experience. The challenge with employee experience is that it cannot be done from the top down. It must be a collective effort by everyone within the organization to make it better. To help you get started improving your employee experience, these were the 3 most important areas, according to respondents in Japan, that you should focus on. Transparent leadership communication, meaningful work, and mutual respect with colleagues. To explain more about employee experience, we probably need another webinar.